a people through which I will bless all the peoples of the world. These were the words that Abraham heard from God that set his face toward a new land, a new life, a new reality. And the book of Genesis is a book of stories of beginnings. The beginning of the world as we know it, the origin of difference and language, the calling of a man and his family to set out on a new way. Paul tells us that Abraham is called righteous because he followed God on faith. He stepped out and entered the realm of the unfamiliar, open to receiving the promises of God. This story, along with the other stories found in the book of Genesis, serves the communities of faith who read it and who embrace Abraham's story as their own, as a truthful witness to God's activity on its behalf, in creation and blessing, in judgment and forgiveness, redemption and promise. At the end of our passage, the writer tells us that Abraham and his family journeyed on by stages toward the Negev. In our day and age, when instant gratification is the norm, it is easy to miss this detail of the story. Following God in the way that God would show Abraham would take time, commitment, perseverance, and trust. Hundreds of years would pass before the land that was promised would be entered by the great nation that would come from Abraham and Sarah. They would face challenges and heartache. Their children and children's children would stumble as they negotiated the path toward fulfilled promises. Generations later, after famine drove Abraham's offspring to Egypt, after a period of 400 years of oppression under Pharaoh, after awe-inspiring liberation, after 40 years of wandering in the desert, a group of Israelites prepared to enter the promised land. By this time, they had built the Ark of the Covenant, had established a priestly order, and were led by their prophetic leader's protege to the banks of the Jordan River. There, the priests were told to wade into the river holding the ark. And when the priests were in place, the water from the river stopped flowing so that the people could cross on dry land. When all the people had crossed, elders from each of the tribes of Israel were instructed to collect a stone from the middle of the riverbank and place it on the other bank in Gilgal. These stones were to be a reminder to the Israelites, to those who made this particular trek, and to all the future generations. Joshua, the one who led the Israelites into the promised land, told the people, "When your children ask their parents in time to come, 'What do these stones mean?' then you shall let your children know Israel crossed over the Jordan here on dry land. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan for you until you crossed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which God dried up for us until we crossed over, so that all the people of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, and so that you may fear the Lord your God forever." The stones on the riverbank at Gilgal symbolized all that God had done for them and stood as a perpetual reminder to the Israelites of their origins. These stones were intended to prompt the telling of their story, to keep alive the memory of God's activity in their own minds and hearts, and in the minds and hearts of the generations that would follow. Ours is a living history. Today, in our little community of faith, we have such an opportunity to remember, to tell a new part of our own story of beginnings, to make alive the history that we share. And to help tell this story, I want to invite Jane Crane to the podium.